Not a single Democrat is saying thank you that our families are safer. The Democrats have decided instead to fly down to El Salvador and have margaritas with MS-13 gang members. They don't want our families safer.
Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
When Democrats put people on the court, they're looking for partisan activists. See, when Republicans are doing it, I want a judge who will follow the law. I want a judge who will follow the Constitution.
Give it up for the greatest senator Texas has ever had.
God bless Texas. What a week we've had. I want to thank y'all for being here. I want to thank y'all for standing up. And I know that every heart here is grieving. What we saw last week on September 10th, I got to be honest, it still doesn't feel real. I remember as the day unfolded, suddenly seeing something on Twitter that Charlie'd been shot. And that didn't seem like that could possibly be right. And there was a period of time when you didn't know what had happened. You were hearing all sorts of references. I pulled out my phone and sent Charlie a text. Hey, are you all right? I'm praying for you right now. Obviously, I never got an answer to that text. Shortly after that, the video of what happened began appearing online. And I don't know about you, but my algorithm, it seemed every single tweet I saw was that video playing over and over and over again. Charlie was a good friend of mine. In between when the news broke that he was shot and the news that he passed, I called Heidi and I called a good friend of ours who had introduced me to Charlie 13 years ago. I met Charlie when he was an 18-year-old kid. He was fresh out of high school. He was the same age as a lot of young men and a lot of young women here. And I met him in the living room of this friend of mine. And he had a vision. And I'll tell you, the three of us, we just prayed. We prayed for Charlie, we prayed for his wife, we prayed for his kids. But I remember that 18-year-old. He had a vision for what would become Turning Point USA. It didn't exist at the time. But he said, look, we are going to organize young people all over this country. We are going to energize young people all over this country. We are going to energize them to defend liberty. We're going to energize them to love the Constitution and Bill of Rights. We're going to energize them to love America, to reject the poison and lies that are being shoveled to so many young people tearing down this great nation. And he said, we're going to energize them to live their faith boldly. And I got to say, listening to that 18-year-old kid talk, that sounded like an amazing vision. But you got to remember when this was. This was right when Barack Obama had just been reelected. We had just seen a blue wave across the country, and there wasn't a whole lot of optimism for conservative energy among young people. At the time, the hippest thing you could be was a socialist in training. But I'll tell you that Charlie's vision, the degree to which it came to pass in the 13 years that follows, staggers the mind. I've got a simple message for you guys tonight. Be like Charlie. Look, Charlie lived only 31 years. And that's a reminder, by the way. Not a one of us here knows if we'll be here tomorrow. We don't know if we'll have a life of 31 years or 101 years. But in 31 years, Charlie Kirk impacted this world in a profound and powerful way that will resonate for generations. Now, what does it mean to be like Charlie? I want to focus on 5 principles. Number 1, have a clear vision. Charlie knew what he was fighting for. For all his learning, for all his erudition, Charlie never went to college. Now, my message is not don't go to college. Some of your parents are looking at me going, ixnay on the no college, eh? But he knew exactly what he was fighting for. He had a vision, and I'm here to tell you, truth matters. Truth matters deeply. You know, a week ago, I was in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and we were having a confirmation hearing for one of President Trump's nominees for the Department of State. And Tim Kaine, Democrat senator from Virginia, was questioning the nominees. And as I walked into the hearing room and had a seat, he was in the middle of a riff where he said he had listened to that nominee's testimony, and the nominee had said that our rights do not come from government, but they come from God. Well, Tim Kaine was not applauding that sentiment. He said, what you just said, that our rights come from God, he said, is radical and dangerous and extreme. And he said, that's what countries like Iran are built on, not America. And I have to tell you, I had a whole different line of questioning that I'd planned to do that morning. But I was stunned by listening to my colleague. And so I spoke shortly thereafter, and I said, you know, Tim Kaine just told us that believing that our rights come not from government but from God is radical and extreme and dangerous. And I said, without exaggeration, that is literally the founding principle upon which the United States of America was created. And I said, if you don't believe me when I say that, maybe you'll believe another Virginian by the name of Thomas Jefferson, who penned the Declaration of Independence and right at the outset said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Now understand, self-evident, that means so obvious that anyone with any sense at all will know this, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator. Not by government, not by the DNC, but by God Almighty. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I got to say, what was disturbing is that Tim Kaine is not some fringe left-wing character. Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's vice presidential nominee in 2016. He came within a hair of being vice president of the United States and maybe even president of the United States. Tim Kaine in the United States Senate is about as mainstream a Democrat as you can find, and he so casually, he so effortlessly said, of course our rights don't come from God, and how dare you say such a thing. And I'll tell you, Jefferson in the Declaration talked about unalienable rights. What do unalienable rights mean? It means they cannot be taken away. Listen, if government gives us our rights, you know what that means? Government can take them away. The fundamental revolutionary idea behind America was our rights are not given to us like some crumb from the table of a king or queen. But every human being, we are made in God's perfect image. And I said in that hearing, you know, when Tim Kaine says that our rights come from government and not God, that means slavery was okay when it was legal in the United States. You know what? Slavery wasn't okay. It was evil and wrong then. It's evil and wrong now, because every man and woman has a right to liberty. Truth matters. So when you live your life, have a clear vision and understand, look, the left today, they're nuts. They're certifiably cuckoo. Look, this is a group of people that cannot figure out what is a woman. That did not used to be a trick question. Like for millennia, you could walk up to anybody. You could walk up to a caveman and say, sir, you know what a woman is? Yep, sure do. And by the way, every one of them that says they don't know what a woman is, they're lying. All of them. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove to you right now that Joe Biden knows what a woman is. In 40 years in the Senate, he has never once sniffed Chuck Schumer's hair. He knows. It's 100%. And by the way, I am even more certain Bill Clinton knows what a woman is. Truth matters. What's the second principle I want to say? Be bold. Charlie was bold. Look, Charlie went onto college campuses and took on all comers, said, come on up, ask me what you want, prove me wrong. He was not afraid. I'll tell you, yesterday I did a meeting of my staff where I brought together all my DC staff and on Zoom all my Texas staff. And we just spent about 30, 40 minutes just talking to each other about what happened to Charlie. And listen, it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel uneasy. And we just talked about it. I asked my pastor, Greg Mott, who's the pastor of First Baptist here in Houston. He's an incredible friend, a wonderful man of God. I asked him to just visit with our staff and share some thoughts. And then we just shared what was on everyone's hearts, and he led us in prayer. Be bold. You know, Charlie knew there were threats, but he didn't live with a spirit of fear. He didn't live a single day with a spirit of fear. He knew that he would encounter people who were socialists, who were communists, who were transgender, who were ideologues, who disagreed with him. And he went in with courage. Some of y'all may have seen this weekend some idiot spray painted vile graffiti right above 59. They spray painted F. Charlie Kirk, and they did not abbreviate the F. I'll tell you, that was a mile from my house. It's right at 59 and Shepherd. And I got to say that few things have been more infuriating than watching leftists celebrate at the horrific murder and the assassination that happened last week. Some of y'all may have seen I went and grabbed a paint roller and painted over that thing. Look, TxDOT will clean it up and remove it eventually, and they've been notified, but some of y'all may have noticed government doesn't always move terribly quickly. And as far as I was concerned, Texans didn't need to gaze at that hateful garbage even 1 minute longer. So be bold. Number 3, be prepared. Look, if you know the truth, if you have a vision and you're bold, you also have to be ready. You have to be ready to stand up for what you believe in, which means you need to take the time to learn and be prepared. That's something Charlie took very, very seriously. He would get on the phone with experts. He'd get on the phone with his pastor. He'd get on the phone and he'd talk through, all right, what are the arguments people are going to come at me with? And how do we respond? He put the time into learning. All of you, you've got friends, you've got classmates. You maybe have family members who are convinced that whatever lie the corporate media is telling them must be true. Now, if you're going to bring the truth to them, you have to put in the hard work to educate yourself and to know the facts. That's part of what made Charlie so effective, is he put the time in that he came with the facts. You know, I don't know if any of y'all like basketball. By the way, I think the Rockets will win it all this year. But there's a very simple principle in basketball. If you want rebounds, get under the rim. The same is true. If you want to be able to win arguments and persuade people, then learn the facts, learn the substance, and learn what the other side believes. Don't just listen to one side. Don't just educate yourself from those who agree with you, but take the time to learn what those who disagree with you believe, so that then you can explain. You know, some of y'all know I do a podcast every week. It's called Verdict with Ted Cruz. I do it 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have millions of unique listeners on Verdict. Now, why do I do the podcast? I do the podcast specifically to equip each of you, to arm you with facts, to arm you with information, to arm you with what you will not get if you're watching the news, what you will definitely not get if you're looking at TikTok. But it will give you the tools to press back when somebody insists, as Jimmy Kimmel idiotically did, that Charlie Kirk's assassin was a right-wing MAGA person. Last I checked, there are not many Antifa transgender right-wing MAGA people. But be prepared, and the podcast is designed to do that. So I want to ask all of y'all to do something. I want to ask you to pull out your phones. Pull out your phones and text the word verdict, VERDICT, to the number 24005. I'm going to give you that number again. It's 24005. 005, text the word verdict. What you'll get back is a link to subscribe to the podcast. And every Monday morning, Wednesday morning, Friday morning, it'll magically populate. And it's about a half hour, and it's designed, whatever the news of the day is, whatever the issues that you need to know, it's designed to help you be prepared to win those arguments and to fight for the principles, the eternal principles you're fighting for. Principle number 4, be civil and loving. Look, the left is angry. They are so very angry. How many radical leftists does it take to screw in a light bulb? That's not funny! By the way, I said that once. Somebody in the back of the room called out, said, well, how many does it take? And I said, actually, nobody knows, because that would require work. But be a happy warrior. That's one of the things Charlie did wonderfully. Charlie was joyful. Go look online of a picture, a video of Charlie, and you'll see he was smiling. He was smiling, and when people came up and when people attacked him, he didn't respond by cursing them out. He responded with love. He responded with respect. He responded with civility. And have a sense of humor. Laughter is too many Republicans act like they got a stick inserted where it doesn't belong. Like, just laugh. There's a meme that became popular online. Oddly enough, it's a picture of me. And it says, "This man ate my son." I saw it. So I retweeted it. I said, he was delicious. Oh, and leftists can't stand that. They get so angry. I'll tell you, several years back, there was a show on HBO that was called True Blood. It's a vampire show. It's all about vampires running around. And True Blood had an episode one Sunday night where a bunch of vampires show up at a Ted Cruz fundraiser and attack everyone at the fundraiser. So I'm sitting at home Sunday night, my phone starts blowing up, my friend saying, dude, vampires are eating all your supporters. That was a strange thing to get over your cell phone. I'm like, what are you talking about? And, I decided to post about it online. And I said, I'm very sorry to have apparently lost the vampire vote. But I'm amused and more than a little bit astonished that HBO is acknowledging leftists are bloodthirsty ghouls. And going down the comments, there was one comment, I don't know who it was from, but somebody commented, said, Ted, I'm sorry to tell you, you never had the vampire vote. Because vampires are dead, and everyone knows the dead vote Democrat. But be happy and joyful. And fifth, be faithful. Charlie lived an honorable life. He was a loving husband to Erica, If any of y'all haven't seen, they did a video of the two of them of how they met and fell in love. That's just beautiful. I retweeted it this past week. But he loved his wife. He loved his two little kids. He was a dad. He was a faithful dad. But I'll tell you, Charlie was doing an interview some time ago. And he was asked, he said, what do you most want to be remembered for? And he replied, you mean if I'm dead? And I said, yeah. And he said, I want to be remembered for the courage of my faith. I'll tell you what, that wish has come true. Look, Charlie loved God. He loved Jesus. His faith mattered deeply to him. And I say this as someone who spent a lot of time with Charlie. These were not empty words. This was what motivated him to live the life he did. And it's interesting in time. Charlie became, I think, one of the most important Christian evangelists and Christian apologists in the entire world. Now, what does it mean to be an apologist? An apologist is not someone who says, I'm sorry. But apologetics is the practice of explaining and defending the Christian faith. The Apostle Paul was a powerful apologist. C.S. Lewis was a powerful apologist, and Charlie Kirk became an apologist in the tradition of C.S. Lewis. It was not by accident. He spent a lot of time studying, thinking about how do I explain faith to people who've never heard the gospel. You know, earlier this year, he was on the Bill Maher show. I don't know if any of y'all saw that interview. Bill Maher is a very smart man. He's a very funny man. But Bill Maher is not a Christian. He is proudly an atheist. He openly rejects faith of any kind. And this interview, I think it was around Easter time, and Bill and Charlie are talking, and Bill says, you know, I always found the phrase, he is risen, that people say all the time at Easter time. He said, I always found that a strange phrase because it's present tense. He is risen, not he was risen. And Charlie said, well, Bill, there's a reason for that, which is that Jesus is risen today, that he's here for us today. He transcends time. The fact that he is risen is not just a fact that he was risen 2,000 years ago, but that he is risen today and here for you and for me right now, here today. And it was interesting. Bill kind of sat back and he said, wow, I never thought about it like that. And Charlie was not judgmental. He didn't lecture him. He didn't hector him. He just shared his heart in a way that not just Bill, I don't know what impact it had on Bill, but I do know millions of people watch that show. The Bible talks about sowing seeds. And some of the seed will fall on rocky soil, but other seed will fall on good soil and take root and bear fruit. And so we're called to be faithful. You know, I'll tell you, I want to share with you a text that I got from a friend of mine. And this is right after Charlie died. friend of mine that lives out in California, who says, Ted, when I first met Charlie, actually, hold on, here's the text. It's even before that. He said, I first met Charlie at your Deer Valley retreat in October of 2015. I was so impressed and taken by his vision of bringing conservative values to college campuses that I was an early funder and introduced him to many others who had greater capacity than me. We stayed in touch, and I mentored him until his knowledge exceeded my own. And I saw him reshape the political balance, particularly, but not exclusively, with the under-30s. Looking back at his evangelism, his courage to go to the very heart of the evil that afflicts and brainwashes our youth and give those souls hope, I am wondering this morning if he may have been a saint. Not in the sense he was perfect, as none of us are, but because God moved through him, and he was the vehicle God chose. And then he quotes from the book of Jeremiah. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. Then said I, Ah, Lord God, behold, I cannot speak, for I am a youth. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am a youth. For you shall go to all to whom I send you, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. And then he ends the note with, God bless our brother in Christ, Charlie. Thank you for bringing me into his orbit. Look, I'm grateful for every one of you here. Most folks here, y'all are young, you're just starting your life. There may be another Charlie Kirk sitting here tonight. There may be 2, or 5, or 10, or 100. What does it mean to live a purposeful life, a life that makes a difference? I'll suggest to you that we've all just seen a powerful illustration of that. And listen, even in times that are challenging, even in times where we're grieving, even in times when we're weeping, God remains sovereign. And I'll tell you one fact that I think is undeniable. More people have heard and listened to Charlie Kirk in the last week than I think had heard and listened to him in his entire life. That's a legacy. I grieve for Eric. I grieve for his little kids that will never know their dad. But they'll see him online, they'll see pictures of him, they'll see images, they'll see his charm, his wit, his smile, they'll see his wisdom and erudition, they will see his vision and his boldness and his knowledge, they will see the legacy he left. And I have every confidence that last week, on September 10th, God welcomed Charlie into heaven and said, well done, my good and faithful servant. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Texas, God bless Charlie Kirk, and God bless the United States of America.